So hello everyone, welcome to the channel. So in this video, we're gonna focus on our introduction to groundwater flow modeling. So we're gonna discuss about the physical characteristics of the aquifer, the porosity and permeability. So in the last video, we have discussed the four major types of an aquifers. Then we talked about two aquifers, the confined and unconfined aquifer, and of course the difference between them. And I gave a lot of example to can distinguish them by your naked eye. And also we have discussed about the importance of studying the geology, as we said, and of course studying geology or the lithology of the soil materials, so we can define whether we have an aquifer or the aquiclude, or where is the best place to put our well to be an artesian, and to reduce our cost and to reduce our cost of pumping out the water. So in this video, we're going to discuss about the physical characteristics of the aquifers. So let's get started. So now we're going to discuss the most important physical characteristics of an aquifer. So the first one is our porosity of the aquifer. So the porosity, it is a ratio between the void and the porous media, as we can find here. So as you can find from this image here, you can able to see that. So we have some sediments, and we do have a void space here. So this is the void space. So generally this void space are occupied by water. So it's completely filled by water here. So in this image here, which is indicated in blue color, which indicates the voids are completely filled by water. So these sediments are called as the porous media. So as we said before, we have some sediments which we call the porous media, and do we have this voids between the sediments here. So these are the voids between the sediments, and these voids may be filled with water or may be filled with the air. For example, in this image you can see, so this void space is completely filled by water, and similarly in this image, so the void space are completely filled by water, but in this case it is not filled by water, so it is filled by air. So actually this is a porosity. Phi equals to the ratio between the void divided by the total volume. So the porosity is actually the ratio between the void and the total volume. Or we can consider the porosity as phi equals to the volume minus volume of soil divided by the total volume. So from this table, we have some example of the porosity you can find here. So these are the different materials, and the porosity of these different materials are given here in this table. So as you can find here, the clay has a porosity of 45 to 55% of porosity, which is considered a large number, while where the gravel, you can see here the porosity is ranging from 30 to 40%, so which has a larger soil particle size and has a smaller porosity. And here the shale has a very least porosity of 1 to 10%, because the void space in the shale and limestone is very less compared to our clay or the soil or the sandstone. So this is a sandstone, so it has a porosity of around 10 to 20%. Comparatively, the peat soil has a high porosity of around 60 to 80%, which indicates the larger void space between this peat soil. Comparatively, the limestone has a void space of around 1 to, that is the porosity of around 1 to 10%, which indicates the void space in the limestone is comparatively less than the peat soil. So the highest porosity be observed in the peat soil, and the lowest porosity is observed in shale and limestone. So then we have to study on the permeability. So we're gonna take a look at the permeability. So permeability, it's talking about how the fluid or the liquid flows through the porous media or the porous material. So as we can find here, so we have this sediments as well as the rock here. So actually for the sediments, of course, the permeability is much better. So as we said earlier, the sediments represents the aquifer or the porous media. So as we can find there's a proportional ratio between the sediment size and the permeability of the sediments. So as the sediment size increases, the permeability also increases. So for example, the gravel, which is the best, it has the highest permeability, while the clay is of has a very poor permeability. So the gravel, which has a largest sediment size, also has the best permeability, while the clay has the poorest permeability. So while we talk about the rocks, as we said earlier, the rocks are not considered as an aquifer, but it may have a fractures that can transmit the water through it, but it cannot store it. So here in this example here, you can able to observe here, we have number of joints in this rock here. So which has an ability to transmit the water through it, through this joints and fractures. And comparatively, you can see this joint sets here. So in this rock, so this fractures and joints has an ability to transmit the water, so but it can't store it. So the rock's permeability is proportional to the fracture size and the connectivity between them. And we can say that the permeability through rock is from good to excellent. And actually, that is right. So as we don't store any water, we have a minimum losses into the rocks. So now we have to ask a question. So is there any relationship between the permeability and the porosity? So for the first time, you can say yes. But after we define the permeability and we define the porosity, so we can say no. So we can say that the permeability is not proportional to the porosity. So as we said before, the clay has the largest porosity up to 45 to 55%, while it has the poor permeability. So you can able to see that it has a poor permeability. So the porosity is from 25 to 80%, but the permeability is around is poor. While the gravel, the porosity is ranging from 25 to 40%, and its permeability is excellent. So the gravel has a medium porosity, while it has an excellent permeability. So the permeability and porosity has a no proportional between them. So one of the most important characteristics of course for the aquifer is the hydraulic conductivity. So the hydraulic conductivity is the measure of material's ability to hold or to transmit or to conduct water, and the permeability and hydraulic conductivity are directly proportional. So as we said before, of course the gravel has the highest permeability, so it has the highest hydraulic conductivity. So for example, here it is a well sorted coarse sand gravel, so it has both permeability and hydraulic conductivity is very high for this material, for well sorted coarse sand gravel. And here the poorly sorted coarse and fine materials like sand, it has a moderate hydraulic conductivity. So it has a moderate permeability and moderate hydraulic conductivity. So while the well sorted fine silt and clay has the lowest permeability and hydraulic conductivity. Actually, the hydraulic conductivity is a measuring unit. So what I mean by a measuring unit, so I mean we can measure it from the site. So we can measure it from the field test, and it has a unit which is and it has a unit that is meter per day. So next we're going to talk about the transmissivity. So talking about the transmissivity, actually the transmissivity is directly proportional with the hydraulic conductivity. Actually the transmissivity is hydraulic conductivity multiplied by the saturated thickness. So this is our saturated thickness. So the transmissivity represents it measures the measure of the amount of water that can be transmitted horizontally by the full thickness of the aquifer under the unit hydraulic gradient. So the transmissivity represents the amount of water that can be transmitted horizontally by the full thickness of the aquifer under a unit of hydraulic gradient. So let me explain the transmissivity once again. So it measures the amount of water that can be transmitted horizontally by the full thickness of an aquifer under the unit hydraulic gradient. So that means if we discharge some water, so that a water table decreased just by 1 unit. hydraulic gradient. So that means if we discharge some water through a well, so the water table decreases just by 1 unit of hydraulic gradient. So how the water will move horizontally through the full thickness of an aquifer to recover the amount of the discharged water. So as we said it before, so it is a product of the hydraulic conductivity and the saturated thickness of the aquifer. And as we said before, if the unit of hydraulic gradient, hydraulic conductivity is meter per day, and the unit of the saturated thickness is meter. So the unit of transmissivity is meter square per day, and the transmissivity is represented by this formula, that is transmissivity equals to the hydraulic conductivity multiplying the full thickness of the aquifer. So one of the most important characteristics for an aquifer is the storage coefficient or the storage parameters. The storage parameters actually will have to define the three important storage parameters, which are, so the three major parameters are the specific storage, or the second is one is our storativity or the storage coefficient, and the third is the specific yield. So the three major storage parameters are the specific storage, storativity, and specific yield. So you can say the storativity or the storage coefficient is the amount of water volume that a permeable unit will absorb or expel from the storage per unit surface area per unit change in the head. So it means if we had discharged some water, which means the water table will decrease by just one unit. So what is the volume of water that could expel out? As we can see here, that could expel out due to the absorption of the unit surface area. To be more simple, you can say that we have a different storage parameter in unconfined aquifer as well as in the confined aquifer. Actually, for the confined aquifers, as we said before, we are working under pressure. So when we are talking about the confined aquifers, then you're talking about the specific storage. So the specific storage, it is a volume of water released from the unit volume due to the unit decline in head by pressure. While in case of unconfined aquifer, so we are talking about the specific yield, as we can find here. So these are the two equations that may simplify everything in case of confined. In case of the confined aquifer, so in case of confined aquifer, the storativity is equals to the specific storage only. And in case of the unconfined aquifer, we have a specific. So we have a specific yield as well as we have the specific storage. But the value of the specific storage is nearly negligible compared to the specific yield. So what is the reason? So as we said before, the specific yield is the amount of water drilled or expelled by gravity. So here in the unconfined aquifer, we really have gravity. So okay, let's imagine that we move that aquifer upward, and the amount of water that will be drilled by gravity. So let me explain it once more time. Let's imagine that we move the aquifer upward, and the amount of water that will be drained, so that will be drained by gravity, is much higher than if we move the confined aquifer. So the confined aquifer is really under pressure and has no gravity effects on it. So in unconfined aquifer, we can say that the storativity is the specific yield, while in the confined aquifer, the storativity is a specific storage. Actually, it is very important as we go deeper in the groundwater modeling. We can say that if we have the confined aquifer, we define the specific storage only, and if we have the unconfined aquifer, we define the specific yield only. As I said before, we can determine the hydraulic conductivity at field site test. Actually, this could measure the hydraulic conductivity or the transmissivity And as we said before, we have a direct relationship between the conductivity and that is the hydraulic conductivity and the transmissivity. So we have three different tests. First is our slug test and followed by the pumping test, and the third one is our tracer test. So one of the most important tests is the pumping test, and the most common test. Actually, the pumping test is when we have a pumping well and we have the observation well. So this is the pumping well and this is our observation well, and we have the reasonable distance between the pumping and the observation well. So when we discharge water with a known pumping rate, so we will have a drawdown. So you can able to see this drawdown here. Actually, the drawdown, you also have what we name it called the cone of depression. So you can able to see this cone. So this is called as the cone of depression. As you can find here, this is the cone of depression. Actually, the cone of depression affects the observed well. So we could measure the drawdown in the observation well. So we could calculate the characteristics of this aquifer, whether the hydraulic conductivity or the transmissivity. So we can calculate the characteristics of this aquifer. So whether the storativity or the transmissivity. So we can convert the transmissivity into the hydraulic conductivity and convert the storativity whether to a specific yield in case of unconfined aquifer or the specific storage in case of confined aquifers. And now let us summarize what we see till now. So we now studied the characteristics of an aquifer, and we do have studied the most important aquifer characteristics, which are the transmissivity, which can be converted into hydraulic conductivity by dividing the saturated thickness. Then we studied the storage coefficient or the storativity, which can be defined as a specific yield in case of unconfined aquifers, and the specific storage in case of confined aquifer. So it was quite interesting still now. So from the next video, we will talk about the groundwater flow equation and how to solve it using a finite difference. So thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe to our channel and make sure that you follow on our upcoming videos. So thanks for watching.